Hey, hey. Let's see. All right, y'all. If you're out there, say hello. Tell me where you're from. Smash some hearts and likes. Let me just double check we're in the group. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Pin that over there. Very good. All right, how's everyone doing out there? Hey, Alex. What's up, Corey? Good to have you here. So just welcome yourself here to the Tuesday training. We are short one, as you might be able to see. Elon's wife. Yeah, maybe you're right. You could turn up the lighting a little bit. Corey's telling me my lighting is dark and ominous. I was just trying to get my lighting right. Here we go. Bright sunny. Hey Denise, what's up? What's up, Randy? Elon's wife threw out her back in some pretty gnarly way, so she's bedridden. They're trying to figure out how to help her right now. So he's helping the wife and the family take care of things. So it's going to be solo mission today. So I will do my best to check you guys out in the chat box there. As you guys can see, things are coming in. If you're looking at the chat box and you see that your name has a Facebook user instead of your actual name, that means that you are in our Facebook group, and because it's private, that's going to be blocked over there. So if you want your name to show up, I'm dropping the link to that in the chat box right now and putting a bunch of arrows next to it. So if you click on that link right there and you give permissions, then the software will be able to stream your name through, even if you're in the group, okay? So that chat.reachstream.io /FB, that's the one. All right, well, it's good to have you all here today. We're going to talk a little bit about anxiety, overwhelm, stress, and then, what we can do about that. Can we get rid of it completely? And then we'll do an exercise here together. We'll sit and we'll look at what we call parts work. I do want you guys to know, for whatever amount of time you have with us here today, of course, you're welcome to be here the entire time. If you are enjoying this type of training, you've been looking for an opportunity to participate with us and get direct training from Ilan and myself, our next Intuitive Mind live event is this weekend. So this Saturday and Sunday on the 5th and 6th. If you do want to get in there, please buy your tickets as soon as possible. And you want to do that because you are going to receive recorded pre-training before the Saturday session. And we highly recommend that you go through that training prior to attending. It'll just amplify your experience in there. So for that reason, you definitely want to buy your ticket and get that information mailed to you as soon as possible so you can start going through some of that training prior to. If you don't have time, it's okay, but it's highly recommended, okay? All right, so Mr. Blackman, nice to have you here. Recently joined some of our new programs. Sarah Yu, I hope I said your name right. Susan, nice to have you here as well. And so, stress, anxiety, let's talk about it. We're living through some interesting times, of course. I think these are some of the most incredible times perhaps to live through. We're on the precipice of some incredible things in terms of our spirituality and evolution, also in terms of technology and things we're discovering in healthcare and energy. I mean, this is, for better or worse, whether we're on the path to ending it all as a species or in a path to a very golden age of humanity. What an incredible time to be alive. Now, obviously, however it is that you look at it, stress and anxiety, you can tell me in the chat box if you agree, is certainly part of probably of everyday life for most of us. Say I in the chat box if you agree. I personally, throughout my teenage years, was in quite a bit of depression, contemplated suicide, and acted upon it a number of times throughout my life. And interestingly enough, until I don't know if it's just a New Yorker thing or growing up on the East Coast, but I had never ever thought of myself as an anxious person at all. Like it just didn't even register in my system. And then I moved out to California in 2013, and I had and my first girlfriend out here at the time was always dealing with a lot of anxiety, and it just dawned on me one day. I'm like, I have that too. I mean, I have definitely felt that way throughout my entire life. Maybe you're like me, and when you go into a party or you're speaking to a lot of people, you get that like feeling inside of your body, and then you get a little bit weird, and then they're starting to get a little strange, and then you're kind of getting strange about they're getting strange, and you're thinking, are they strange because I'm being strange, right? Like things like that. So, how many of you guys can relate? You walk out into the world, COVID, precipice of wars, like all these things, may overwhelm you or create stress in your life. And then, of course, there's the familial things, the financial things, the health things that life throws at us. And so, this is a very, very real aspect of our lives. And then you're going to have different types of people that deal with stress in different ways. And again, in the chat box, you can tell me which type of person you are. If when you are dealing with stress, are you the type of person that avoids it? Or are you like more of an anxious type? Like it's internalized. It's this kind of very uncomfortable experience. So I can tell you that between Ilan and myself, I have the I have the anxious attachment system, and Ilan has the avoidant attachment system. And like in most relationships, this is how most relationships are. You have one system that's anxious and one system that's avoidant that can create a lot of tension in the relationship because the anxious person is looking for more connection, right? They want that stability. They want to know that you're there. And then the avoidant, the more closeness you get, starts avoiding the situation. And to the avoidant, the anxious person looks needy. And to the anxious person, the avoidant person looks like they don't care. If you want a really, really good book on this and understanding how relationships works and the science of attachment systems, there is a book out there called Attached. I think it's like the new science of attachment systems, and it's a really, really good overview on the topic. And then a lot of what Ilan and I do here and the work that we do is how do you actually do attachment repair? Like how do you actually begin repairing these systems? Because you may read the book and it'll be very insightful for you. And oh my God, I understand my system. And there are certainly, by the way, anxious avoidance systems out there as well. There's also, believe it or not, secure systems. So if you are looking for a relationship, by the way, and you're an anxious system, you really want to try to find yourself a secure system that will help you leaps and bounds have a healthy relationship and also help you do repair work in your own system. Just to kind of segue here or go on a little tangent, basically in the dating pool, when people are looking, avoidants don't end up with each other, or not for very long periods of time, because you can't have two people in a relationship that are constantly trying to avoid each other. And so those relationships may begin, but ultimately come to an end rather quickly. And so you end up with a pool of a lot of avoidants out there and a lot of anxious people trying to connect to them. And so this is so much of why people have challenges in their relationships. But when you start understanding these two systems and you start understanding that underneath what these two systems are trying to achieve is the exact same thing. And like in most relationships, how someone is trying to achieve that is just going about it in a completely different way. But if you understand that the trauma that's underneath is the same, that's a really good starting point, because then you can start realizing, okay, they're just trying to get their needs met through this avoidant path. I'm trying to get my needs met through this anxiousness. It's not that I'm not an independent person or whatever it is that might be like thrown on us as a belief system. It's really you just trying to get your needs met. Okay. And honestly, that's all trauma ever really is. right? Like how many of you guys can relate to this when you have stress, anxiety, overwhelm? Like just take a moment and check in and realize that in a way, these parts of you that come forward through these different aspects is really you just trying to get your needs met. And you can say I in the chat box if you believe that to be true, right? Because that's really ultimately what all these systems that seem traumatized are really trying to get to. It's like, okay, how do I get my needs met? Now, many of us, by the way, let me just say it this way. For those of you guys who are like, needs, what are needs? I don't have those. There is a point in our cycles that when the trauma is too much, we've put our hand out too many times to try to get our needs met. Our caregivers just couldn't meet us in that way or couldn't meet our needs. We eventually will abolish our needs. We'll just start believing that we have no needs whatsoever. Okay? And when we get to that point, usually is where people become very service oriented and they start trying to fulfill their needs by fulfilling the needs of others. And as they do that, this other anxiety starts building in the system of like, I always give, but I never get anything in return. This is kind of like that model sacrificial mommy, right? Like that we all have that picture in our head of a mom that does everything for everyone else, but never does anything for herself. That would be a sign of that distortion. Yeah, people pleasing. And I could tell you that most coaches, most people who are service oriented have built their companies, their businesses, their coaching practices from that distortion. Like I will flat out tell you, Satori Prime was built on what's called a merger compensation distortion. Okay. So again, like trying to meet the needs of others, like being the savior, blah, 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 blah. And again, there's something really important about healing this aspect of ourselves by starting to realize that your needs are important. There's some clients, I shit you not, we have to begin with and literally say, I need you to go on Google and look up the definition of needs. And they have to start with something that basic. Okay, really like what is a need? Like that basic. And then slowly but surely starting to open their system and then, realizing and not only that I have needs, but then the challenge is how to ask for needs. Like how many of you guys know when you want something from a spouse or a significant other, maybe it's even asking for a raise or, something important that's important to you that you want to ask for, and you feel terrified. Like it's almost like you can't even do it. You almost rather be dead than go ask for that thing. Like how many of you guys have had that experience before? That is that system at play. That is all attachment systems. And so the good news is that can be repaired with time. Of course, it's not a one and done experience, but with time, there's absolutely attachment system repair. And so just to kind of loop back into this overarching idea about stress and anxiety, here's the truth. I still experience anxiety. I still experience stress. Okay? It has taken me many, many years to recognize these expressions within our body. Because if you think about the mind this mind expresses itself through thought. And then ultimately language, right, to express that into the world. But the body does not have at least thought in that way that we think about it, and it certainly doesn't express itself through language, but through emotion and through sensation even more deeply. The body is expressing itself all the time. I'm a little bit always muddled with telling people that emotion is the language of the body, only because emotions are the language that the mind gives. It's the interpretation the mind has of sensation in the body. So really the body's language is just sensation, right? It's a vibration, a frequency, a feeling, an intuition. And then, we say, oh, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm this, I'm that. And that's all these contemplations that we've had over the years, or feedback that we got from mom and dad saying, hey, you're angry, or, oh, I noticed that you're sad. And the little boy and little girl says, oh, I must be sad. But it's like, they were just having a sensation. Right? So the language of the body is sensation. And this is where most of us have disconnected from. We are very cultured to think of our mind as this area up here, but really all this is localized awareness. Like when we think of this mind, it just means that we are taking our awareness, we are localizing it back here, seemingly behind the eyes, and we're experiencing the world from this conditioning. Okay? But it will probably be one of the biggest breakthroughs of consciousness in this century, as we begin to realize that mind is everywhere, and that this whole system, including the heart and the gut and all these things, are all thinking as well, and are different avenues, so to speak, in different ways that you can experience the world, experience your reality, experience yourself, experience your experiences, digest and metabolize them in new and different ways. And I'm not just saying this theoretically. Science has already proven that we have 40,000 neurons in our heart. We've already proven without fail that we have neurons in our stomach. We know that for every one signal your brain sends down to your belly, you send 10 signals back up from your belly up to your mind. So it's like, what is actually doing the thinking? Okay. And so, I'm kind of giving like an overarching view here, but coming back to like stress and anxiety, here's the reality is it's an important aspect of being human, as is fear. All these things, right, have something to teach us. What we want to learn is, now how do we cope with it? Now how do we manage it? Now how do we overcome it? But like, how do we build a very strong relationship with it, where instead of feeling like something is wrong every time we get into one of those cycles, which could be many times in the day, we start realizing what is trying to be said to me through this experience, and then how is that helping my evolution as a spiritual being, as a biological being? Like, how, what's the function of this? Okay. And so that's what I really want to talk about is the function of this. So how many of you guys are just, I can't have you raise your hand, but by saying how many of you guys are tracking this is interesting for you? Like, what do you actually do with stress? And furthermore, how do we use it to heal ourselves? Because most people see that as an indication of something's wrong and some kind of trauma. And it's more like something is being repeated in your system and is actually trying to metabolize from your system so that you can heal more, transform more. And so, the first shift I'd ask for you to make is, could you see your stress? Could you see your overwhelm and anxiety as an opportunity? Because that's really what it is. Yeah, and Susan's saying, generally she stuffs it down. And generally that's what most people do. And maybe you don't stuff it down, maybe physically through emotion. That could be the reason you head over to the refrigerator more often than you'd like to. Or the reason you watch, brain dead television at the end of the day, or grab that glass of wine, or smoke that pot, or whatever it may be for you. Like, we all have our ways of trying to manage and cope stress. Here's the reality though. Every time you do one of those things, again, I'm not telling you to stop, because there's a way to deal with addiction in a much more powerful way. In a way, those are all the addictions that we use to not embrace and fully experience our reality. Right? It's like, I don't want this. I want to change my state so that I don't have to be dealing with this thing that's expressing itself in my body. When in fact, the real game is, how do I fully observe, be with, and let this express itself through me? And what ends up happening with that energy is it actually metabolizes from your system, because that's really what your body's trying to do, is just constantly, it wants to metabolize, okay? However, it can't do that from a heightened state of fear. It can't do that when you're in a fight or flight response, which is where most people are pretty much living and locked in all the time. When we downregulate our nervous system and we can get into a rest and digest state, then that energy, that anxiousness, that fear that arises in the system, it can find a pathway out. And this is actually how our system repairs itself. It's how it heals itself. Yeah. And so Denise is saying, and Denise is one of our students, she's saying the problem is recognizing the stress in the body in the moment. And to an effect, she's right. And just to clarify, your body is like this incredible DVR system, right? It's like this like recording device that records everything, right? Now your mental aspect might not remember memories exactly. But if I ask you, and I don't want you to go too deep into this, but if I ask you to like just bring forward like a recently traumatic experience, like something that's really causing stress in your life, and just by even intending that, I can already feel it in the field here between all of us. There's like something shifting and changing, and I'll pull us out of this in a moment. I want you to see that it's right there. Like, so for me right now, I don't have a keen memory that I'm paying attention to, but as we do this, as I intend And it's everything's power of intention. I can feel in the back of my heart there's a clamping that's beginning, a tightening in my solar plexus, and like the energy is now stuck here. Okay? And so at some level, doesn't matter where you're at, if you intend anything, like the body immediately has this memory and it corresponds to intention and your intentions instantaneously, pretty much faster than you can even become aware of it. It's already happening. Okay. So just to kind of ground the space again, if everybody listening, if you can just bring your awareness towards your feet and see if you can notice the subtle shift between focusing your awareness on something that creates stress in your life versus just grounding your system towards your feet. This really subtle, there you go. Yeah. So all we're doing is just bringing our awareness to our feet. And by doing this, we're actually helping to ground our system. You can also, if you're sitting in a chair like me, you can just notice that you're in a chair, notice that your body weight is being supported by the chair, and noticing your butt in that chair. Yeah, and Susan's saying she feels better already. And you guys can give me direct feedback too, right? Like, because we can amplify the energy and go into a really big stress response. If you notice, media takes advantage of that all the time. And again, I just had our coaches training. We were talking about this. It's like you can, like, there's lots of different matrices out there, right? So you can go into the matrix of what's happening, wartime and inflation and COVID, and do all those things. And you can do that. You can do that completely mindlessly and just be absorbed into it. Or if you know how to locate your awareness, your unconditioned I am awareness, you can still choose, hey, like, I'm going to go check that out. However, I'm going to watch what my system is doing as it connects to that matrix. And if you do that, you're going to learn a lot about your system. And then you also know how to disconnect from it quickly. Okay? So I'm going to give you guys an example in just a little bit here about how do we unlocalize awareness so you can actually locate your own awareness. Because the power in everything that we teach here is not just the mindset piece and the reframing and the paradigms and more integrity and more responsibility. All that stuff works great. You know, how to communicate non-violently. All those things are fantastic. However, you'll notice that if you decide to play this game with us here, and if you, like, for example, if you decide to come to the 2-day live event, by the way, I don't think I even mentioned where to go. If you want to buy your ticket, it's intuitivemind.live. You can enroll yourself, or if you just want to ask our team a question, they're hanging out in the boxes right now. Just say contact me and someone will give you information and also take some time to answer questions if you have any. So if you do want to explore this, once you shift your evolution to more of looking at everything from awareness and energy, you're going to start noticing that everything you look at takes that framework. So even doing mindset work, which is very powerful, when it doesn't involve energy and awareness, is really just a bunch of other ideas, right? So you're like, I had this idea, that idea brings me harm. Let me change to this idea and see if there's less harm to it. And you can kind of train yourself to rethink, right, in the moment and after bad things happen. But the real repair work, like I said, the language of the body is this sensation, is this awareness, is this energy. There's a reason Nikola Tesla said that if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you want to understand frequency, vibration, and sound, I think, something like that. I have the quote somewhere. But, you know, he doesn't say, like, understand your mind. He's like, take a look at, get curious about energy, frequency, and sound, because that's really all we are. And so if you want to have a different relationship to stress, if you want to have a different relationship to your life, where most people are trying to change their external factors for this, yeah, thank you, energy, frequency, and vibration, thank you, not sound. Instead of changing your external reality, which is what most people are working on, let's say, you know, 99 point whatever % of people are working on, they're like, I'll change my circumstances, then I'll feel safe. Well, you'll have the illusion of safety, but the part inside that didn't feel safe, but nothing's changed. So mindset can, like, you know, again, we're all living in an illusion to some degree. If you can have some say in the quality of that illusion, I think that's probably a really good idea. However, the underpinnings, the part of you that remembers, just like before we intended to have stress, the stress response starts in the body, we intend to ground the system responds. that is something to really, really get curious about, because whatever it is that's going on in your life, whether you like it or not, has been habituated in. And mostly not because you decided to have it habituated in, because you have a lineage, you have a family, there's a conversation in that family, there's an energy in that family, there's a lineage to things that have happened to your people, war and famine and genocide and things of that nature. And those things are literally energetically passed down to you. We were just having a conversation with our coaches, and it's like, with this level of awareness, like the understanding that people start coming to is like, this lineage can transform with me. What's up, Mark? Like, this can actually end with me. Like, you can learn, you can be a node that realizes how to process that and completely transform that, so that that energy and that frequency and that lineage, at least in the way that it's been passed down, no longer has to be passed down. Like, imagine having that confidence to know it's like, we don't got to do this anymore. And the impact that could have on the world, the impact that can have on the species and our people. And so let's kind of like dive into this, right? So again, like, stress and anxiety, you're not gonna figure out a way to never have it anymore. Okay? It's an important feedback system, as is fear. Like, imagine you walked out in the street and you didn't have any fear. You'd cross the street in the first car that came barreling down on you. You'd just stand there and be like, well, all right, and it would hit you, and that would be the end of your physical life. So we need that feedback system, right? So stress and anxiety it's trying to tell you something. And it ultimately is saying is like, something is not being processed in the system. It's stuck. And the stuckness of energy is creating this discomfort. And the body is desperately is like, okay, well, I want to metabolize this. But in a fast-paced world that we live in, we're like, go, drink, sleep, this, that, boom, boom. And the body doesn't operate at this speed. The mind that we've cultivated in our society right now thinks it can do that. It can't do that either, but at least it thinks it can. And so we have this buildup, almost like plaque in our system, of unprocessed energy, that if we don't learn how to become like have energetic hygiene, so to speak, just like the way you would take a shower at the end of the day, if you're not cleaning your system and cleansing your system from inside, it's going to get worse. And then, right, you hear all these stories of people hitting like their 30s and 40s and suddenly having like a crisis, like a nervous breakdown. This is why. You get 30, 40 years of unprocessed energy in the body. There's only so much the body can take. There's like, you can throw a lot of shitty food down your gullet too, right, and make yourself really not healthy. And it's amazing how much the body can take. Like, you have some heavily overweight people out there still breathing, still walking. Like, you have this incredible machine that is extremely adept at survival in this environment. Like, let's like really honor that. We have chemicals everywhere, food that's not healthy, and somehow our machines keep going. Like, it's pretty incredible, right? But at some point, the machine's going to break down, and then you start having health issues. You start having mental issues. You start having emotional issues, and they're not issues, but it's like, it's hard to walk through the world when all day long you're a jittering, anxious mess, right? So it's like, just a little bit of assistance on your part is essentially what we begin teaching. And then I think naturally, as people start doing this work and they start feeling the relief, the groundedness, the manifestation that comes from it, right? Because like, your reality is also being sourced from the energy of that anxiety, of that stress, of that lack of wellness, so to speak, right? And so by making effort on your part, which is actually a very small effort, it's very simple stuff we're talking about here, you can hygienically clean your energetic body, so to speak. You're altering the frequency, vibration, and dare I say even the way that your DNA is operating. And then that can be the source of how your reality manifests. And if you've been on these calls many times, you've often heard me say that reality is an organic hologram that is responding to the frequency output of your body. That's it. That's what's happening. And so if you really want to make changes in your life, it's not about you coming out here and understanding through conditioning and linear processes, how do I reorganize my life out here so that I feel better, you won't. And so it'll keep recreating this trauma from that frequency over and over again. Might be good for a little bit, but you'll sabotage it. We want to learn how do we get deep into our system and actually metabolize, have this hygienic energy, energetic hygiene that I'm talking about, and start really creating our lives from a completely different energy. How many of you guys would be very, very interested in doing that or learning how to do that? Say aye. Take a drink while I wait for you guys to respond to that. Like, how many of you guys would love to learn how do you actually work with this body system? How do I actually change the frequency that I carry around inside of myself? So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're saying I, but you're not participating in our programs, like that's the way that we can teach that to you. I'm sure there's other people out there that have their contemplations, but if you're connecting with what I'm saying and you're serious about what you just said, that you want to make that change, then come to this weekend. Yeah, breathwork is amazing too for this, right? Like there are I'm not pitching that we are the only game in town. There are many, many avenues to get there, but like if you're like, yeah, I want to learn how to do that, cool, get to this weekend. We will teach you. Absolutely. It will literally knock your fucking socks off, okay? And I'm telling you right now, this is not hard. And we're gonna do an exercise right now together. And we've been doing this more and more for you guys because we want you to realize the simplicity of it. Here's what I want to tell you though. I have been on my growth path for 20 years. I've been doing this work that I'm outlining for you right now for about 5.5 of them. And like anything else in life, the people who are making headway are regularly committed to a practice, any practice. Like if you want to play the guitar, you're not going to learn how to play the guitar by picking it up once a month for 5 minutes. You'll learn more than a person who's never picked up a guitar, but it's going to take you a long, long time to learn how to be proficient at playing the guitar. If you do it 3, 4 times a week, clearly going to see a difference. If you do it every single day, you're going to see a difference, right? This is very simple, and the reason it's simple, it's innate. This is natural. It's not something you have to cultivate like a mental process that you need to understand. It's something that you're just doing already. It's just no one's pointed at it yet for you. And so the beauty is that when you cultivate this level of awareness, you start building energy in your body in a completely different way. And you start becoming aware of this really subtle nature of reality, this really dreamlike type of reality that we live in. And so when another dreamer who's been doing this dream for a little bit longer points at it for another dreamer, the dreamer can recognize it and goes, oh yeah, that is interesting. I have noticed that. And so it's in that pointing, just like a mother or father points to a child when they're learning in the world. Oh, that's chair. Oh, that's sad, right? Like it makes it more real as it's pointed at, and suddenly you realize, oh, I know how to actually move this chair. I know how to manipulate it and sit in it. And it becomes a world unto itself. And so that's what we want to do for you. Yeah. And notice the dreamlike nature of reality. Like we want to do this for you and guide you to it, and then show you how to amplify it like crazy. Because most people, again, we say this a lot now, but if you've read Michael Singer's Untethered Soul, he talks about finding the seat of awareness. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about you finding the seat of awareness. And when he writes that book, it seems as if the seat of awareness is like what we're all just been trying to find, and we have for a long time. It's like the fountain of youth. It's all the things. And the funny part is, it seems like by finding it, like all is well now. But the reality is that the true game of evolving to our much higher spiritual beings really begins once you find that seat. And who was I talking to the other day? It might have been Alex Franklin. I don't remember. But it's like there's this realization that with awareness, there's no boredom. Like life is not boring ever with awareness. You ultimately find that this entertainment that you've been looking for, that we're all kind of, again, trying to find from our externality, that there's a whole world, like literally a universe happening inside of you. And because you've been so externally focused, it's like, oh shit, by turning in, like all this stuff is happening all the time. There is this incredible human experience happening. And you kind of discover that like there's a beautiful video game happening inside of you. It's like the best video game. Yeah, that was with Alex Franklin. It's like there's this incredible video game happening inside of you, and it's like this whole time you've missed it. So it's like, what if you suddenly come into that awareness? Well, how would that change your life? If you stopped reaching outside of yourself so much to try to generate this life and realized if I generate it within, it just automatically generates outside of myself. The organic hologram is a mirror that will reflect whatever is inside of you. That's just what's so. And some people will get that and some people won't, and that's okay, wherever you're at. Okay? So let's do a little experiment with our awareness. Okay? And I want you to know that when we do this in the 2-day, again, that's coming up this weekend, like this is what's amplified. Like we do this work in a much more intensive type of way so that you can clearly locate what's happening in your system and also have an experience, not of just locating it, of it metabolizing, and then how your system essentially reprograms itself. Okay, it happens on its own. You don't even have to be like, hey, system, I need you to do such and such. You don't have to do any of that. Why? Why don't you have to do any of that? Well, because everything is organized around homeostasis. Like if you look everywhere in the universe, everything is in balance. I was watching, I have a 3-year-old at home, and we were watching Our Planet on Netflix last night. We let him watch nature shows once in a while. Hey, they're beautiful, and B, we want him to know that this world is gorgeous and worth saving, and the people in it as well. And it always like behooves me when you see how these ecological systems work. You know, how like a predator, yeah, it eats this, but then like it creates this waste, and that waste helps feed this other entity, and you know, like so on and so forth. I don't have to explain to you how like these things work, but like there's a homeostatic way that everything works. If you guys have seen the movie, I think it's called Big Little Farm. It's incredible watching how this ecology works, right? And so if the ecology works that way, I want you to understand that energetics works that way. Everything has a harmony, and that harmony needs to have another harmony that basically brings it back to homeostasis. So this is how, again, how when you cut a finger or something like that, the body just brings it back to its original form, right? If a woman gets pregnant, she doesn't have to give any advice to her body on how to form that body, and then after the baby, after the birth, like the body goes back to its form, right? Like as best as it can. It goes back to its to homeostasis. If that's true anywhere, if you can observe that anywhere, that means that's true inside of you too. And so what we want to learn is, why are we not returning to homeostasis? Yeah, The Biggest Little Farm. It's so good. Such a good movie. It'll make you cry, it'll make you laugh, and it's just an incredible journey of watching this ecology come back to homeostasis through the work of these people. Right? Again, break a bone, body mends it. Everything is trying to return to homeostasis. So if it's not happening in your life, that's what there is to inquire about. And I would just say that the only reason for that is it cannot happen. It cannot happen from this level of mind. Because this level of mind that you're experiencing it through is actually the one creating the trauma. And so unless you know how to come out of this level of mind or go into a higher state of consciousness, so to speak, it can't heal that rupture. It can't go back to homeostasis, right? It's almost as if awareness is like white noise. You guys know when there's like just noise in the background, but then now we have like noise canceling. The way that you get noise canceling in headphones is the headphones are listening to the sound that's coming into them, and then into your ears, they're playing the opposite frequency. So the sound waves, like if one sound wave is going like this, the other one's going like this, and when they merge, they like hit at the center. And that's what creates the silence. It's just the opposite frequency showing up. That's how it works everywhere. And so entering these states of consciousness is like that noise cancellation. It's bringing it to homeostasis. It's giving your body the opportunity to let's let that move. And then that stress, anxiety, overwhelm that comes into your body, you start realizing every time that happens, it's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to provide you with an experience so that you can heal it. And so like stress can become this ceremony. Like when I get afraid in my life, when I get fearful and overwhelmed, and those things happen, I'm human. Doesn't matter what you have in your life, what you've achieved, you will experience those things. I've now, over many years, reconditioned my experience that when it happens, I'm like, ooh, opportunity for healing. Ooh, opportunity for evolution. Ooh, opportunity for upgrades. Ooh, opportunity to come back to my vision of the reality that I'm creating. And then it's like, oh, but this part is not believing that. It's afraid. Okay, great. Well, how do I sit with this part? How do I downregulate my nervous system and bring myself back to homeostasis so that I can get back into the frequency of my vision? And that's what we're going to just do a little taster of over here, okay? So play along with me for just a moment. Again, no one can see you. I'm the only person on video here. So if you put up your right hand, especially if you're new and you have not been part of our community, first of all, welcome. And second of all, welcome to your awareness. You're about to discover it. So I want you to just put your awareness on your hand. So you don't have to look at your hand. It may be helpful for you to close your eyes. Again, with a lot of practice, I've been able to get to open eye meditation and not lose my focus. So just put your awareness on your hand. And what I want you to start noticing is that something about your hand is shifting. And you might start feeling like more tingles, more heat, vibration, cooling. It might even feel numbness. And if you're feeling numbness, I want you to know that's not the absence of sensation, that is the sensation. Okay? So just give me a little feedback and let me know if you can feel that in your right hand. So again, we're looking for increased sensation. And if you want to keep playing along, now put up your left hand and move your awareness from your right to your left. So moving it to the left. And again, just noticing, if you can notice, as you move your awareness, if nearly instantly an experience changes and you start having more sensation now in your left hand. Someone's saying yes, beautiful. So again, just notice this. That's interesting. I'm just moving my awareness. The other thing to notice is I didn't tell you how to use your awareness. You just knew how. It's innate and intuitive. It doesn't require a manual of any kind. So now check it out. Now take the same awareness and move it towards your left foot. And again, noticing, yeah, waves through with warmth and spiral vibration. Just people expressing their experience. And again, you don't have to have anybody's experience but your own. Just have your experience. And then noticing as your awareness comes to your left foot, the sensation that's increasing there. Move it to the right. Notice the instant nature of awareness also. You actually don't need to effort at all. So if you're finding yourself efforting, moving awareness, notice that you are efforting and then see if you can let go. So let's talk about why this is important. This is really just like a toe in the water right now, right? Like a dip in the water. So why is this important? Well, the first thing we did is we unhooked from our conditioned mind. Okay? It would seem that you are here, that you are the watcher behind here. But ironically, if you actually try to locate what's watching, if you do this in meditation, you inquire into this deeply. If you inquire into what's actually watching, you actually can't locate the awareness that's watching. Okay? So if our experience is that it's here, what that tells us is not that awareness is back here, is that we are locating, we've been conditioned to locate awareness behind our eyes, or in this experience of the mind. Okay? And this is where all your conditioning is. And so that means that if you view life from conditioning, what's happening out here, then all you're ever going to see is variations of this conditioning. And this is why people have such a tough time with transformation, because this is like you're in the play. You're the actor in the play. It's a lot easier to get perception, right? Like a clearer perception when you are subjective. Think about how friends come to you for advice and you're like, oh, I know what they need, right? Like you tell them and boom, it's like, ah, duh, why is Nancy not doing that? Like, why is this so hard? Right? But then when you have problems in your own life, you are just like your friend. Like you're like, I don't know, what was me? What do I do? And then your friends, you go and ask them for advice because again, they are more subjective in their view. And so what we're really saying is it's just a different perception. I'm going to go get a different perception. And so we want to be able to develop a new view from our awareness, a new perception. And so the first thing we got to learn is how to unhook from our conditioning. Okay? The second thing we want to learn is, well, how do I view what's happening in my system? Because the stress I feel is not in my foot. I mean, maybe there's pain in your foot, but it's like, or maybe that's creating stress for you because you're like hobbling around, fine. But like what I'm saying is like where we experience stress or anxiety is usually like here. It's somewhere in the center channel, right? It's like maybe it feels like your throat is closing, or you feel like heaviness on your chest, or your stomach is tightening, or your solar plexus is like being held. That's the feedback. Right? That's where the chakra systems are. That's where the vibration frequency is emanating from. And so we want to learn, again, how to unhook from our conditioned mind, and then how to like stay not in the conditioned mind as often as possible. Okay? Now we can view what the mind is doing and not get so merged and wrapped up into what's happening in there. And then we want to start looking at and building a aptitude for is, how do we view where the stress is? How do I view where the anxiety is? Okay? And when I do that from this higher state, unhooked, subjective point of view mind, what this allows for is for my body to begin coming into a more relaxed state. If I just hold that view and then lightly hold this part in my system, again, this takes practice, and that's why we have the events, because it's not something you teach in 5 minutes. It takes a few rounds of, it, and then realizing your own aptitude with it. That's why intensives. When you can sit with it, this is just like allowing for a cut to heal on your finger. Eventually, you'll find that this stress, this overwhelm, this thing that you were trying to figure out and understand how to game plan and change everything in your life to make it feel better, like none of that shit works. But just sitting with it in connection, suddenly this magical system can just start working for you. And everybody's body can do this. It's natural, innate, and again, it will gradually start coming back to homeostasis. The energy that's stuck there and bound there will begin to move. And again, this is all happening because of this subjective higher state view. Okay, because you're not watching from conditioning. It's just like Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the level of mind that created it. That seems to be true. And then it just metabolizes. Okay. When it metabolizes, when the energy moves out, usually moves out through people's feet or out through their crown, depending on how the system is organized. There is like a reconditioning that happens in the body, like a reorganization of energy, and it always reorganizes towards more well-being. Okay, like imagine this: like your body's never gonna detox from something and go, okay, well now that we detox, let's make things worse in there. That doesn't happen, right? Like I'm on a cleanse right now. I'm on my second day of no food. And it's the same thing. Like I'm giving my body a break from digesting, from who knows what pollutants are in our food and all the things that come along with it. Why am I doing that? Because I just want to give my body a break so that it can use energy for removing waste from the body, like toxicity from the body. And there's all sorts of other scientific reasons to do this, but it's the same thing, right? I just want to give my body just like an opportunity to just fucking relax and get into more well-being. And so if you have any concerns that by doing that, like somehow you would get worse, it's not really how it's organized, right? Like your body's always gonna move towards more well-being. Your system is always gonna move towards more well-being. Yeah, and somebody's saying like that this stuff is so nuanced. When one has been in the low patterns, vibrations, etc., it's just impressive that you can do this so well without ums and etc. Thanks, guy. Yeah, my pleasure. And I'm not sure who said that, but yeah. And again, I want to tell you like nothing special about me in any perceivable way other than my willingness to participate in this work ongoingly for a long period of time. So if you could say like my commitment is what's special, not what has come of my commitment. Okay, that's Corey. Thanks, Corey. Yeah, beautiful. And so again, if we sit with that part, the system will reorient itself towards more well-being, and that's that. Okay. And here's the beautiful part. Now that specific layer is gone. Okay, it doesn't mean all your stress is gone, doesn't mean all your problems disappear overnight. Sometimes you have very big experiences, sometimes they're very subtle, and oftentimes the very subtle ones are the big experiences, believe it or not. But to the mind, it's like, oh, well, nothing big happened. But here's what happens. Like any athlete who does some motion repetitively, eventually what you're really doing is you're using this conscious mind, right? This higher state mind to reprogram this subconscious part of yourself. Okay? And what that really is doing, said another way, is it's shifting the frequency that is being held in your body. It's like the instrument is being retuned. Now your reality is going to start projecting this new song that you're playing, right? And it's going to start feeling like, imagine your body is playing heavy metal all the time. There's going to be a certain reality that shows up around you. But if your body starts playing Chopin, or Beethoven or something, or Mozart all the time, reality's going to look a bit different. And the irony of this whole thing is that your mind doesn't actually know what's happening. Like it doesn't. There's no like, oh, okay, now I understand. Mom did this to me and such and such. Like those things are cool. They're nice to understand. I did that for a long time, but it doesn't repair the system. And then suddenly you will go hang out with your mom or your dad or your spouse or a loved one, and they will say something that they normally say that usually agitates the living shit out of you. And you'll be waiting for the agitation to start. You'll even look up at your mind and go, are we going to do this thing? And it'll go, no, we got nothing. And the reason that happens is because the mind, we think that we're responding to life from up here. But the reality is that really life is coming at your system. There's a subconscious response, a tightening, a fear, an anxiety, something. And then the mind, in its effort to protect you and to create safety again, runs some kind of program based on whatever happened to you in your past and however you dealt with that trauma previously, like a knee-jerk response. So for those of you guys who get like come to anger really quickly or feel shut down very fast and then feel frozen in it, or you get to anger and then you're like, I didn't mean to respond that way. Oops, I'm sorry. And you're like, how did that happen? That's how it happened. You're not dealing with the source of it. It's in here. The mind is just responding. It's like, what do you want from me? This is how we deal with this thing. This is how we've always dealt with this thing. And so the way to reprogram yourself is not to convince your mind that things are different. It's to actually metabolize the charge that's in your system so that the mind has nothing to respond to. And the mind is highly efficient. So when it realizes that it doesn't need to respond to something anymore, it will stop running that program. And it will just happen naturally and without any effort on your part. And this is how I know we can heal addictions, we can heal physical, emotional. It really doesn't matter. It's like whatever you point it at, it's going to work because we all know the placebo effect, hopefully. I just learned the history of the placebo effect. I thought it was very interesting how we realized it. And it's also curious that we don't have that as a large area of study because we've seen, immediate remissions for people and health and all sorts of other incredible things from the placebo effect. You would think that we would want to study and learn how to harness that. I'm telling you, this is a way to do that. And it seems magical, but it just is part of us. It's an innate ability that seems really magical to a world that has not taken advantage of this magic yet. So that's what's on offer here, guys. And again, you're welcome to come to these Tuesdays and we will talk about it and give you examples of it and even do a little bit of work. And I'll tell you again, if you want this work in your life, that's why we do intensives. That's why we have programs, because it takes something, repetition, lots of reminders, coaching. There's no athlete on this planet that doesn't have a coach and health practitioners working for them and trainers that work for them. It takes a team. I have found that if it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to transform an adult. We still are raising that child. You may be in a bigger body and you may be a little bit more complicated than a child, but it still takes a village. It takes people supporting one another. There is healing that you can do on your own. We call that self to self. Sure, there is. But some of your traumas, many of your traumas, were on the level of self to other in relationships. And they were also at level of self to group. And so you need the reflection at all those levels, from self to self, from self to other, and self to group, to hit on all the different things that your individual systems literally require to go through different aspects of human development in a healthy way. And this is how we repair attachment systems. And so over time, I don't think stress and anxiety will ever not be part of your life in some way, shape, or form. Again, very important. However, it will certainly diminish, decrease, and you will actually enjoy working with it when it arrives. Imagine that. Imagine enjoying it. Imagine being so sad or so scared and not being scared or sad that you're sad or scared. Like you're like, wow, look what I can do. Look at this experience I'm having. It is so beautiful and it's teaching me. And I always tell our clients, my number one wish for you is that whatever transpires in your life next is you build the capacity to have the confidence to be with anything in your life. And I'll tell you this is the last bit, and then what I will play you guys out is some testimonials so you get a sense of what happens at the 2-day event. You learn as you cultivate this awareness that, and Dan, I'll answer that in a second, you learn as you cultivate the awareness that instead of trying to attach yourself to getting pleasure all the time through circumstances, the view itself is pleasurable. Like just observing is the pleasure. Now, what happens on the screen in front of you matters a lot less when you're just in pleasure and viewing. Again, think about watching a movie and the characters are going through something sad or something harrowing or something difficult or something very inspiring. You're still getting pleasure simply by watching. Simply because you are the subjective view watching another object have an experience. It's not you. What if you cultivated that in your life? So you walked around with a subjective view of everything that's happening all the time. You can start seeing, just like watching a movie, you would start deriving pleasure from the view instead of what's on the screen. And that to me is a huge, 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 huge thing. So I want to just remind you again, if you want to learn this stuff, if you said, hey, I am committed to this, and that's all you have to say, guys, like, are you committed to this? And we are so sure this work is going to make a difference, like in the quality of your life, like a profound, holy fuck wow difference. If it doesn't, just tell us and we'll give you your money back. We should not earn anything based on anything that we can't provide. That would be ludicrous. So if you get value, great. If you don't, just let us know and we will refund the cost of a ticket. Okay? So if you want to buy a ticket yourself, you're ready to enroll, you go to intuitivemind.live. You can enroll right now. Again, we kick off Saturday and Sunday. You'll get pre-training before you get there. And the other part is you have a beautiful support team. Corey's been chatting away in the chat box there. You can just say, contact me in the chat box, and Corey will reach out to you right now and privately have a conversation with you, answer any questions, let you know anything you need to know about the event. Or you can go and just set up a support call by going to soulsandseekers.com/support. That's a free 15-minute call. And again, there's nothing to buy on those calls unless you decide that you want to participate, and then we'll lead you and let you know how to do that, okay? So thank you guys for your awareness today and your attention and love and for participating. I want to just honor you for being a person who's looking and who's curious and who's here. We don't think it's a coincidence that you're here. You're looking for something, and we hope that this work provides you with the inquiry and opening to at least take a look at how this could really impact the quality of your life and those around you. Okay, I will play you guys out now with a quick video of people talking about their experience in the 2-day. We love you very much. If you have any questions, just pop them down below. We'll see you next time.
You put words to something that is inexplicable. How do you try to convey, other than I hope the energy and the love you can feel coming through this, like how amazing and cracked open I feel, how after a life's journey of traumas and bliss and books and self-development and walking the Camino de Santiago, which was 800 kilometers in 33 days of meditation and being connected to Earth and interacting with other pilgrims for all over the world. What an amazing experience that was. That changed me, but I can't tell you how much more 2 days with all these beautiful souls online in this event, how much more that even cracked me open, how that did crack me open, finally cracked me open. The deep-seated feelings of well-being, of connection, those aha moments, going into this with no expectations, with my heart open, it's life-altering. I sort of equate it to being when you first fall in love with someone and how blissful that is and everything's great and wonderful, and that, it's the honeymoon period. But this is not that. This is the honeymoon period with yourself, which is never going to end. I cannot stress enough how much this is actually easy, as they had said. Come if you're called, come if you're engaged. My experience, I can tell you, is not atypical. It's extremely typical for those that open up and feel this connection together. Can you do things on your own? Absolutely. Can you do things one-on-one with coaches? Fabulously. I get chills saying this, can you grow in leaps and bounds when you connect with a large group of like-minded souls? The energy between us all, the love, that deep-seated feeling of wellness and connection. You're not alone. You're here for a reason. Nothing's a coincidence. Like, it just all clicks and becomes this most beautiful experience. I hope for any of you that are remotely called to do this, that you will seek these people out, this organization out, this love out, because it's there for you. It's that easy.
I went to their 2-day event this last weekend, and it's just been such a phenomenal growth in my path. I felt like it's exactly what I've been asking for. I had this amazing ability to really, truly come inside myself, listen. So easy. I've been, quote, trying for years, but I think that was part of the problem. I was trying too hard. And when they mentioned just without effort, it almost gave me the permission to just literally feel and drop in and allow whatever was coming up. And in their meditations and in their deep energetic work, I felt so much that it was shocking to me. And I've been able to continue throughout the last few days since the event. And I'm just so grateful. I'm currently in some challenging times, and I feel like that was the missing piece. I've been trying to do it from my mind and not knowing how to really deeply go into my body and feel and heal. And that process was unleashed during this event, and I'm continuing it. And I'm so amazed at how easy and how effortless it really is. Been on a path of embodiment for many years. Lots of self-awareness and personal growth, but it's like that wasn't enough. I felt stuck, and I knew and I felt that there was a lot of stuck energy and, past pain and in my body, and I didn't know how to touch it, even with all the different modalities I've done. This was a missing piece that I've been asking the universe to show me, and when the student is ready, the teachers appear, and that's what has happened. And I'm excited to work with Guy and Ilan some more. And I'd encourage anybody who's thinking about this in this work event in the future to consider it, because it's really powerful, deep, transformational work. Thank you.
I just experienced the second 2-day intensive with Guy and Ilan and Satori Prime, and it's overwhelming. The number one thing is the support. 2, and I said this on day 1 of the 2-day, the abundance of honesty that comes out of this work is in and of itself, medicine, honest with yourself, honest with listening to other people and their stories, not taking it in to a point where it affects you, but taking it in to a point where it allows you to feel and to move through it with them and within yourself. And that's what this program does. At least it has for me. And to feel all of the feels and to not be afraid of them and to have the support when you want to turn around and walk away, they say no. You don't have to. They don't tell you you can't, but they tell you you don't have to. And in doing so, it opens up so much more. The field of energy that was coming through on day 2 was so overwhelming that when my other half walked in to give me some news regarding one of my stressors, I didn't see him. I saw the energy and I saw the emotion and I felt it and I knew it, and I was so protected and so safe that moment alone was worth all the weight in gold. This is a powerful thing. I can see it changing my life in good ways, in ways that I still question, and in ways that I want to still question. Thank you to the entire Satori Prime family. Thank you. I'm better today than I was yesterday. I was better yesterday than I was 2 months ago when I signed up for round 1. And I can't wait to see where this journey takes me and us together, because I know that we're going to be better a month from now, a year from now, because we're doing the work. So, thank you. Mwah.
So I've been trying to find what happened to me that day, and the neurotraumatic experiences just kept happening to me. And it felt like each one, the next would be more extreme than the last. It didn't matter how many books I read, how much I prayed, how much I meditated. I went to counseling. I still am in counseling. I've been going to counseling my whole life. I had a life coach. I'm actually training to become a life coach as well. Working out, vision boards, affirmations, you name it, I did it. I wanted to know all about it, but it didn't help me stop my cycles. In that second meditation, I've come to aware that I took all of those moments for granted. And that was sad, and it was probably a really big disappointment to look at myself like that I have all of these beautiful days that I'm wasting, and I could be present for them all. Not only for myself, but for a lot of people out there. Sorry. No, I'm not, actually. I'm supposed to feel that. I'm gonna allow that in. Every experience can be different. It truly was a pivotal moment for me of where there was before this experience and after it. And I know that it's only catapulted me to only further my growth. And that to me is something that I can't thank enough, and I can't be more grateful for. So if you guys are wanting to do this experience, I encourage it. I encourage you to do as many experiences as you can, because it's life-changing and it's amazing. And I can't thank enough everyone, even for the mini groups and everything after it that they provide, is support with like-minded individuals that I honestly, I'm so filled with happiness and so much gratefulness in my heart that there's no dictionary to describe this kind of stuff, but I hope that I was able to, put it in to a little part of a testimony for you guys and explaining it as the best I could. I love you all.
It's been a wonderful 2 days, emotional, and I just had to take a couple days to process it all because it just seemed, but it was very, very intense, and it was a wonderful journey to be on, that's for sure. There's 2 reasons for me that hurdles that I kind of had to take. Excuses, right? We make up excuses for ourselves, and whatever they are. I don't have the money, I don't have the time, it's not the right time for me, or I can do it on my own, whatever. You have those excuses and you go back and forth in your own head. And the other thing was that I thought I could do it alone, that what I really needed was I needed help. And I actually came face to face with that. And so those 2 kind of things came to a head, plus talking to Nikki and Corey, I decided, what can I lose, really, right? So you go back and forth in your own mind, and at least I do talk to myself too much. So I took the leap of faith, and I went and I took the 2-day course, and I am so proud and happy for myself that I did. It took me, like I said, a couple days to process it all because it was so intense, and just the collective. It's such a safe, loving, protected place to be. You don't have to be afraid. And if we're on the fence, going back and forth like I was, I recommend that you just do it. It's a gift for yourself. The support, the love, that's exactly what I needed. I needed to have someone to tell me that, I'm worth it, and that I'm not alone, that there's other people out there on the same journey, have the same feelings as well. Thank you so much for just being there. It's amazing. Love you.
Trying to put into words the experience that I had, which is actually quite difficult. I went on a journey for the best part of it. Guy and Ilan are very, very good at guiding people, and obviously within this event there was around 50 odd people all sharing this experience with me, which created a very powerful energy field. And as they were guiding us, and to get people to understand and help you understand certain aspects of yourself, we are multidimensional beings. We live in multiple realities at the same time, and I think what happens is we get pulled into this reality, as beautiful as it is, through our senses, and that isn't every reality. There is lots of other areas that for us to explore, and Guy and Ilan are very good at guiding you to open up these different pathways, these different realities. So for me personally, deeply connected to the earth, I felt almost just part of the energy field of the earth at times. I was connected to what I can only describe as beings of light, which were coming to visit me, even maybe ancestral parts of my ancestry. And that was a very powerful experience. And even beyond that, I was viewing the Earth from the moon. There was a lot of visuals for me, and I found it very, very powerful to hear everyone else's story as well, and everyone else's experience, should I say. There was a lot of people. They were opening up parts of themselves that maybe hadn't been open for a very long time, and there was a lot of healing going on. And I found that absolutely amazing. I think for me personally, what I can bring from and what I've experienced, and what Guy and Ilan really help with, is we have a very busy reality. We live very, very fast lives. We have been conditioned, or we've conditioned ourselves to live like this. Everything moves at quite a fast pace, including our thoughts now. I don't think it's always been like this. In fact, I know it hasn't always been like this. And so what this really helps you do is just take in the stillness of everything, and it allows you to really sink in and just allow that stillness to be. And that is by far the most powerful thing I took from this experience, and I think many others would do as well. And if you haven't been on it, I would definitely recommend going on it, 100%. Like I say, it's hard to put into words, the experience.
So I didn't know what to expect from the 2-day intuitive mind event, and honestly, I was a little bit anxious about spending that much uninterrupted time just focused on me. But I'm so glad that I followed my intuition and participated, because it far exceeded any expectations that I could have conceived before. Not only was the event itself powerful and transformative, but now it's 4 days later and I have received daily more downloads, information, just insights that have been really special. There's been a new level of calm and peace and just trust in my body system since the event, and that alone is priceless. I can't wait for more events. I think Guy and Ilan are so knowledgeable and supportive, and I can't wait to continue this beautiful journey with you. Thank you so much for the work that you do. I love you, and you're really making the world a better place. So thank you.
I pondered over doing this, trying to work out how do I explain what just happened. The first thing, I guess, for me, a lot of the energy workshops I've done is generally with women. It's generally, it's not unheard of that I go to events and there's me and 19 other women at these events, held space by women. I just seem to be more attracted to, I guess, the feminine, if you need a word. Or there's just not a lot of men going to these type of workshops. I never knew, I just go along. These two have cultivated within themselves the ability to hold gentle, loving space. And from a big-hearted man like me, that to me is priceless in itself. There's a little bit of a finding home. And for a weekend where I did fuck all, there was just space. Just space. To feel the transformation on the spot of people in the group from an energetic perspective, not from the words that they spoke perspective, I loved. What brought me to the event was just I'd only followed these guys, I stumbled across them, I've only followed them for a couple of months. And just went, oh, that feels all right, I'm not going to do that. Did I have some resistance after that decision? Of course, I did, What am I doing? A couple of fucking randoms on the internet, shit. I have a little gullible piece, so I'm very wary of being taken advantage of. Yeah, so for you, it's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's not an intellectual decision. If you're making an intellectual decision, it might not be right for you. There is changes that are possible. You just need to put your hand up.
I've been on my self-development journey for 5 years now, and I have always had problems to sustain the energy in my body due to physical pains that I have. And these pains, they like feed the blockages that I have in my body. So falling into mind and stress and self-sabotage over and over again, for me it's just inevitable, because I never really could hold that foundation inside, that was missing for me. And when I heard that Guy and Ilan had a live event coming up, and somebody invited me if I wouldn't like to join, because that was exactly what I was looking for, to get unstuck in my energy and unstuck in self-sabotaging myself. So my mind went a bit haywire because I had a work weekend that weekend, and I didn't really have the financial means to join. So I thought it over, and I went to my boss, and I was able to switch my work weekend around, and I lent the money from my husband, and I could attend. So because I knew not going was, just something, when it feels right, you've just got to get that. And that's what that event was for me. And during this event, what happened for me was, I've never felt something like that before. Nearly at the end of the event, when we were invited to join an exercise, it just released a wave of ugliness and shame inside myself that flooded out me. I could see and feel all that blame, everything just flooded out. And what I realized was that I just forgave myself, and I didn't know that that was a work that I still needed to do. And when that happened, it was as if my solar plexus just opened up when all that wave of ugliness and shame went outside my body. I can't explain it any otherwise. And I couldn't grasp these feelings that happened over the 2 days, but it was as if my body and soul were getting ready to release all that. So I didn't understand it, but my body already and my soul knew what was happening to me. And it was just amazing that everything inside myself knew that I couldn't carry those and handle those feelings anymore. So at the end of that exercise, everything that blocked me was just gone. And it was always as if my solar plexus was pushing me down. And now it is as if I have a strong person inside myself, like this strong energy that opens up. I don't know how to explain that. And it's just a feeling like, oh God. Even just expressing my feelings on camera like this, or being vulnerable, it's just nothing that I've ever done. So this is really new to me, and I'm nervous, but it's also exciting to just be able to do this and not hide underneath my stomach anymore and just being pushed away. So it's fantastic. And these are really exercise and tools that guy used that everybody can learn. I think it's always being so overcomplicated to get in touch with your feeling inside that a lot of people are afraid to do that. And I just went in open-minded, and I just believe everything is possible now. You know, it's just, it's fantastic. It's really fantastic. I've never felt more like myself than I do today. So really, I appreciate you, Guy and Ilan. Thank you so much for the work that you two are doing with this beautiful community, and I just can't wait for the next live event to happen. So until we see each other again, all the best to you, and thank you very, very much for just setting me free and just making me smile the whole day. It's fantastic. Thank you.
I walked in with an open mind, and what I walked out with was a lot more than that. I walked out with an open heart, an open mind, and a whole new experience. And it was so worth it. A life-changing experience, I could call it that. I've never felt that way before. I have read many books. I have taken some courses. I have been working on my personal development. And I found the weekend has changed me forever. I felt at peace. I felt secure. I felt safe. I felt loved. And I felt completely tranquil and still. And it was an amazing, amazing, amazing experience, providing a very safe, comfortable, loving, supportive environment. They constantly reassured us. They were there to support us, and we could feel that. And I thank them so much for that. I felt like I was flying high that day, the point that I had reached through those 2 days in my experience, in my meditations. I have never reached that level before. Also, the people that attended in the group, everyone was amazing. Such great experiences, gave you so much perspective, insights on what everyone is experiencing and how we can, help support each other, learn from each other, and also build friendships in the Facebook group that we have. That is a wonderful thing. I'm checking it every day, and it's just amazing, the amount of beautiful souls out there, and I highly recommend this. And I hope you too come and join our live experience once again and see what it's all about. And you too will see that it is life-changing. And I thank you all, and I hope to see you there.